morning, everyone, and thank you for allowing us to be here. I think it's interesting for me, maybe if those who don't know me, I'll give you a little background. When it comes to building, and I go back to my family and my mother and my father, and I grew up in a blue-collar union family. It was kind of interesting. When we had a bad roof, we didn't hire a roofer. My dad grabbed me and said, let's go up on the roof. We tore the roof off and put a new roof on. When there was siding that needed to be replaced, my dad didn't hire a sider. He said, Jim, let's get up on the scaffolds, let's pull the siding down, we're going to put new siding on. So that's the background I have when it comes to building. I was also one of the first ones to go to college. And you know what, in my family, but here's what's really interesting. My mother and dad, we never talked about classes. We didn't know, upper class, lower class. We always believed in the American class, one class. This is America, this is about one class of people, and we need to make sure we continue to remember that. There's no such thing as this division. And that's what's so important, because that's the background I grew up in. It was knowing that opportunity here in this country was available to everyone. And I always use that example. I go to high schools now and I talk about my background because people say, you know what, you don't understand, I don't have that opportunity. And I say, well, let me tell you about my background experience. And I think that's the best thing we can do, is start with that opportunity. And that's what's so great about this country. Now, I had no intentions of running for Congress. I was the first one in my family to go to college. I was a CPA, I was a businessman, started with a couple $100, built a business, was successful. And again, I'm not ashamed of success. I think it's important that everybody has that opportunity and has that ability to be successful. So you all know, one of my businesses, I had a construction company. I built homes, built nursing homes, but I also built residential homes. I understand your industry. That's what I take to Washington. It's that business background of understanding what it takes to create a job, to build a business, but also remember where I came from, which is so important. And ultimately, that's the direction we have to get our country. If we're going to fix this country, it's not about Democrat ideas, Republican ideas. You know what? It's about American ideas. It's about the opportunity we can bring to our children and our grandchildren. It's really important. We say, well, how do we fix this mess? Well, it's about bringing certainty and predictability back. That's the simple answer. We can have all the plans in the world, but without certainty and predictability as a business owner, and again, I was a business owner for 28 years, if you don't know what your taxes are going to be next year, if you don't know what your health insurance costs are going to be next year, if you don't know what the next regulation is going to be next year, many of you are business people here, tell me how you can do a budget. Tell me how you can do a 5-year plan. Tell me how you can decide what your next payroll is going to look like, because you don't have the certainty and predictability. So if we're going to fix things, number one, we got to bring certainty and predictability back. We have to make sure that business owners and entrepreneurs understand what it means. What is my payroll going to be? What is my tax rates going to be? That's what's so important for the future. Now, I've had this opportunity to be in Washington for 22 months, and I can tell you the system down there is clearly broken, no doubt about it. When it comes down to just 3 basic things, we can't even start on time. Nothing starts on time in Washington. How do you ever fix things if you don't start things on time? Number 2, when you hear about the deficit and debts, don't believe it. They're worse. I'm a CPA. I'm proud to say that I understand what it means to balance a budget. When you look at the numbers, they're worse. What you hear on TV, they're worse. We don't even have a balance sheet in Washington. Nobody even knows what the unrecorded liabilities are in Washington. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And then when it comes to politics, the third thing, very political. Absolutely very political. And it's amazing when you get to Washington, because you're right, people put on their uniforms, and that's a problem. Now, I'm very proud. One of the things I did in the last 22 months was I started a bipartisan breakfast. We started out with just 2 of us, then went to 4, then went to 6, now it's 16. 8 Republicans, 8 Democrats meet on a regular basis. We have a breakfast. 5 pieces of legislation have come out of that group. One piece of that legislation, which converts unemployment insurance to training, is one of the things we were able to come out of that group. That group's going to continue to grow. I think that's what's really important. But I think what really is important is that as Americans, we all look around and say, we cannot continue down the path we're going. We cannot continue with this deficit. We cannot continue to borrow money and pass this on to our children. So what we really have to do is find people and elect people who you realize understand what it means to balance a budget, make a payroll, and do many of those things, especially in Washington. And if you look at my background experience, you'll see 28 years of doing that. I'm I'm very proud of that. Why did I go to Washington? I think that's the most important story to tell you in ending. I mean, I had no plans of going to Washington, but somebody took my Chevy dealership. And when my Chevy dealership was taken, I thought that was the darkest day in American capitalism. And look around, you're all business people. Anytime the government can step in and say, you are no longer going to continue in business, that's a problem in this country. And when they did that to me, I said, we have some serious problems in Washington. And that's when I stood up and said, I'm going to run for Congress. So I hope that we look toward the future, not the past. We start electing people who are going to make a difference, work together, but ultimately let's bring certainty and predictability back to Washington. Real quickly about my new district, because a lot of people don't realize, I used to have all of Stark County. And I spent 2 years getting to know everybody in Stark County. My district now just is the northwest corner of Stark County, but it goes all the way up into Cleveland. So I spent the last year really getting to know, letting people get to know who I am. What I'm really proud of is when people get to know who I am, and they really bypass all those commercials, and they get to know who Jim Renacci is and what he's done and what his background is, what his experience is. I win over 65% of the people. And that's what's so important, because people do realize that there is this issue of somebody who understands what it is to make a payroll balanced budget. And I might say, well, how about those other 35? That's one of the problems here in this country. We are divided, and we've got to come together as Americans. There's no such thing as blue and red. There's no such thing as Democrats and Republicans. We have those things, but truly, when we come together as Americans, we can get a lot accomplished. So I hope that I can earn your vote here in Stark County. I appreciate the opportunity to serve all of Stark County for the last 2 years. And I look forward to serving all of you again in the next 2 years. Thank you so much.
All right, next up from the 48th District for State Representative, Amanda Trump.
My name is Amanda Trump. I'm running for State Representative of the 48th House District.